All right, so get ready, because today we're diving deep into this world of magic and mystery.
Okay.
With this Russian fantasy film called Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City.
Right.
You might also know it as Abigail.
Okay.
And you, our listener, wanted to explore this visually stunning film.
Yeah.
And when I say stunning, I mean seriously gorgeous, especially its symbolism and how it kind of, fits within these fantasy and steampunk genres.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the most captivating things about Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City is how it blends fantasy and steampunk.
Oh, yeah.
It does it in this really unique way.
Yeah.
And the visuals in the film are breathtaking.
They really are.
You see these towering structures, intricate clockwork machinery.
It's amazing.
Foggy, almost ethereal streets.
Uh-huh.
And characters wearing Victorian-inspired attire.
Yeah.
All set in this dystopian city that's totally sealed off from the outside world.
Yeah, it's like they took classic steampunk and they just infused it with this Eastern European fantasy vibe.
Absolutely.
It creates this visual feast.
Yeah.
That just...
It pulls you in.
Yeah, pulls you in from the first frame.
Yeah.
And at the heart of this visually captivating world is Abigail Foster.
Right.
Our protagonist.
Yeah.
She starts as this curious young woman full of questions. And she transforms into this determined heroine.
Right.
Who challenges the very foundations of her society.
I think Abigail's journey is the classic hero's journey. It's this tale of self-discovery, rebelling against oppressive forces.
Right.
And what makes her journey so compelling is how it aligns with these dystopian narratives.
Oh, for sure. Right?
Imagine living in a walled city, right? That's hiding this dark secret.
Yeah.
It's ruled by this really controlling government
Yeah.
that uses fear of an infection to just maintain power.
To hold on to power. Yeah.
Yeah. And Abigail, I think, like many of us, starts to question the narratives that she's been told her whole life.
Of course.
And then that search for the truth leads her down this path of magic and rebellion.
It really makes you think about the dangers of just blindly trusting authority.
Right.
And how important critical thinking is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, let's talk about the symbolism that's woven throughout this film.
Okay.
There are these recurring visual motifs that make you pause.
Right.
And think about their deeper meaning.
Yeah.
For instance, the infection itself.
Right.
This mysterious illness that plagues the city.
Yeah.
Could be a metaphor for societal control.
Totally.
Or even fear itself.
I think that's exactly right. It's the infection is, it's this tool of manipulation.
Yeah.
The film never really fully explains what it is or where it even came from.
Right.
But it's used to justify isolating the city and suppressing individual liberties.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, is the infection even real?
Yeah.
Or is this a fabricated threat to control the population?
Yeah, it's
a real world parallel
totally.
to how governments and institutions use fear and misinformation to control the narrative.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's the walled city itself.
Right. The city itself represents isolation.
Yeah.
Confinement.
Right.
This restriction of freedom.
Yeah.
Those towering walls. They symbolize these barriers erected by the ruling elite.
Yeah.
To keep the citizens, contained and controlled, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And in contrast to this, stark, oppressive city, we have Abigail's magic.
Yes.
Which just bursts onto the scene. It does these vibrant colors. It's amazing.
The filmmaker's use of color is masterful.
It is.
You have these dark, muted tones that characterize the city, symbolizing the bleakness and oppression of life under authoritarian rule. And then when Abigail's magic emerges, it's associated with these brighter, more vibrant colors, these bursts of gold, flashes of electric blue. It's visually stunning.
Yeah.
It's almost like
it is
a visual representation of hope breaking through the darkness.
The contrast is striking.
It is.
I think. The use of color not only enhances the visual appeal of the film, but it also underscores the symbolic meaning behind Abigail's magic.
Right.
Her powers represent this challenge to the established order.
Yeah.
It's this beacon of hope in this world, shrouded in fear and control.
It's literally a spark of something different.
It is.
In this world of gray.
Yeah.
And speaking of symbolism,
the
characters themselves seem to embody these classic archetypes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have Abigail, the classic hero, embarking on this quest for truth and justice.
Yeah.
You know, she's challenging the status quo, and she's fighting for the freedom of, you know, herself and others.
Yeah.
And then there's Bale.
Right.
This menacing, almost robotic, like, government agent.
He's so creepy.
Yeah. He embodies, like, the oppressive regime.
Yeah.
You know, he's this figure who values order and control above everything else.
Above all else, yeah.
And he's, like, chillingly calm.
Yeah, he is.
Even as he's enforcing, like, these really draconian rules.
He sends chills down your spine, that's for sure.
He does.
And we can't forget Norman.
Right.
The wise mentor figure.
Yes.
Who guides Abigail on her path.
Yeah, he offers her wisdom and support in this world that just seems determined to, like, silence her. You know, Norman represents, like, knowledge and resistance. I think he understands, like, the true nature of the city's secrets. Yeah. And he's been working
behind the scenes
to fight against this oppression.
Yeah.
And his guidance is, like, so crucial to Abigail's development as a heroine.
It is.
He's like, that one teacher you had who opened your eyes to a whole new way of thinking.
For sure.
And while we're on the topic of symbols, what about those metaphorical objects that are just kind of sprinkled throughout the film? They seem to be more than just props, so...
Right. Keys and locked doors.
Okay.
They appear constantly, symbolizing secrets, you know, the search for knowledge and the barriers that Abigail has to overcome.
Right.
To uncover, like, the truth about her city.
Yeah.
And herself.
Yeah, for example, remember that scene where she finds that hidden key?
That unlocks, like, a secret passage.
Yes.
It's not just, like, a plot device.
Right.
It's a symbolic representation of her, like, unlocking hidden knowledge and stepping into this new phase of her journey.
It's like, it makes you think about, you know, how often we encounter these, like, metaphorical locked doors in our own lives.
Yeah, like fears we need to conquer, truths we need to uncover.
Yeah.
And speaking of unlocking truths, the mechanical devices that are just prevalent in this film, the gears, the clockwork contraptions, those are all, like, hallmarks.
Yeah, they are.
Of the steampunk aesthetic.
Absolutely. And those devices, as visually stunning as they are, they also, like, symbolize control and power, especially in the hands of this oppressive government.
Right.
They represent the city's obsession with order and this attempt to, like, mechanize every aspect of human life. You know, stripping away individual agency and replacing it with this, like, rigid conformity.
It's as if the city itself is a giant machine.
Yeah.
And the citizens are just cogs in the system.
Totally. But then you have Abigail's magic.
Right.
Which, like, disrupts that mechanical order.
It does.
It introduces this, like, element of chaos and unpredictability that the government just can't control.
Exactly. Her magic represents, like, the human spirit's ability to break free from these constraints, this, like, mechanized world.
It's like this force of nature, you know, this reminder that there are things in this world that can't be quantified or controlled.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
It is.
In a world that feels so suffocating. Now, shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
I was particularly struck by the film's exploration of surrealism.
Okay.
And its dreamlike sequences.
You know, the film's surrealism, it's not just there for, like, visual flair.
Right.
It serves this, like, deeper purpose.
Okay.
So surrealism, by its very nature, allows filmmakers to explore, you know, complex themes of identity, reality, and the very nature of existence in a visually striking and thought-provoking way.
Right.
So in Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City, those, like, dreamlike sequences, they often blur the lines lines between what's real and what's imagined.
Right.
You know, and it mirrors Abigail's own struggle to like make sense of this world that's suddenly like turned upside down.
There is like a scene where she's walking through this forest and the trees start to shift and change.
Right.
Almost breathing around her.
Yes.
It's beautiful and unsettling at the same time.
That scene is such a great example of how the film uses surrealism to create this like sense of unease and disorientation. You know, the shifting trees could represent like the instability of Abigail's reality.
Yeah.
The way like her perception of the world is being challenged by, you know, her newfound knowledge and magical abilities.
It's as if the film is like inviting us to step into Abigail's shoes and like question our own assumptions about reality.
I think you're picking up on something.
Yeah.
So the whole film, like, it feels like an allegory.
It does.
A commentary on societal control and the struggle for individual freedom.
It really makes you think.
It does.
About how easily people can be manipulated when they're like living in fear.
Right.
And how important it is to question these narratives that we're being fed.
You know, and it also like it highlights the courage it takes to stand up for what you believe in, even when everyone around you is telling you to just like conform.
Abigail's journey is such a powerful reminder.
It is.
That one person's courage can spark a revolution.
It can.
Now, speaking of visually stunning films that blend, you know, fantasy, steampunk, and social commentary, I can't help but think about like other movies that capture that same sense of wonder and adventure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City definitely shares a lot in common with other like great steampunk films.
Yeah.
And you know, that blend of fantasy and technology set against like that Victorian backdrop.
Right.
That's a big part of what makes this genre so captivating.
For sure.
You know, it lets filmmakers explore these complex themes in these like visually stunning worlds that feel both like familiar and fantastical.
Yeah, it's like stepping into a world where like the impossible becomes possible, like where gears and steam power magic and Victorian sensibilities meet, like fantastical creatures. Speaking of fantastical creatures, did you notice those creatures in Abigail were almost like extensions of the technology itself?
Yes, exactly.
It's so cool.
It's almost as if like the creatures themselves were like imbued with this mechanical life force. It blurs the lines between like the organic and the artificial.
Totally. And it's like another layer.
It is.
To the film's exploration of technology and like its impact on society.
For sure.
And it circles back to Abigail's own transformation.
It does.
What stood out to you about her journey as a character?
Honestly, it's her resilience and her determination. They're just incredible. She is in this city where freedom is restricted, knowledge is controlled, even magic is like suppressed. And yet she doesn't just like accept her fate.
No, she doesn't.
She fights back.
Yeah.
She embraces her powers and challenges like the very foundation of the society that she was raised in.
Yeah, her spirit is unbreakable.
It really is. Her courage is truly inspiring.
It is. Actually.
I think it speaks to like the human spirit's inherent desire for truth and freedom. Even when you're like faced with these overwhelming odds.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even in like the darkest of times, a single act of defiance can ignite a revolution.
It can.
And the film doesn't shy away.
It doesn't.
From like showcasing the dangers of unchecked authority.
Yeah, the government in Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City is portrayed as this like shadowy, controlling force that manipulates information, uses fear to maintain its grip on power.
It's like their methods are ruthless.
They are.
And that's what makes the film's social commentary so powerful.
It is. It's like this cautionary tale about how important it is to be able to think critically. Question the narratives that were given and fight for individual liberty.
And that's a message that resonates so deeply in like today's world,
yeah,
we were constantly bombarded with information from so many different sources.
It makes you wonder, what lengths people in power will go to in order to like maintain control, even if it means like sacrificing the well-being of others.
And the way that they use that concept of the infection to control the narrative is chilling.
It is. The infection, it becomes this symbol of fear itself.
Yeah.
Something that's intangible.
Right.
But incredibly powerful.
Yeah, and the fact that it's never fully explained just adds to its potency.
It does.
It represents like the unknown.
Yeah.
And people in power often exploit that fear of the unknown to manipulate and control.
Yeah, it preys on our deepest anxieties.
It's as if like the film is holding up this mirror to our own society and asking us to examine like how fear and misinformation are used to shape like our beliefs and actions.
And Abigail's journey is what encourages us to look beyond like the surface and seek out the truth for ourselves.
Yeah, and her quest to find her father becomes like intertwined with this larger quest for knowledge and understanding.
It's true. Her personal journey becomes this metaphor for our own like search for truth and meaning in like a really complex and often confusing world.
It raises these important questions.
It does.
About the nature of reality and the choices that we make when we're faced with like challenging circumstances.
It's a coming of age story.
Yeah.
A mystery and an exploration of like these profound existential themes.
It's all of that.
All rolled into one.
Yeah, and it's those existential themes that make this film like really linger in your mind long after you've seen it.
It makes you think about like
it does.
Your own place in the world, your search for truth and your battles against conformity. Yeah, the film invites us to like contemplate these big questions.
Right.
What is real?
What is truth?
What does it mean to be free?
Yeah. And it does so within like this visually captivating world that blends like fantasy, steampunk, and dystopian elements. Seamlessly, it's a film that engages your mind, your heart, and your senses.
It really does.
And it leaves you with like lingering questions.
It does.
Like, for example, what happens to Abigail after the events of the film?
Yeah.
Does she stay and fight for change within the city? Or does she seek like a new life beyond its walls? Like, we're left to ponder the possibilities.
And that's like the beauty of a film like this.
It is.
It sparks your imagination and invites you to like continue the story in your own mind.
Yeah, it reminds us that even in these like fictional worlds, the struggle for truth, freedom, and self-discovery is a journey that never truly ends.
It doesn't.
It's a journey that we all face in our own unique ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of journeys, while we're on this topic of like steampunk and its allure, what other films would you recommend to our listeners who are eager to explore more of this genre?
So if you're looking for like a visually stunning film with a strong sense of adventure and a touch of like philosophical depth, I would highly recommend The Golden Compass.
The Golden Compass, that's a classic.
It is.
It's based on the first book in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials trilogy.
Right.
And it takes us on this journey through this like parallel world.
Right.
Where humans have these animal companions called demons and airships are like a common way to travel.
Yeah, it's a film that transports you to another world.
It does.
Filled with wonder and danger.
And for those who enjoy like a bit of mystery and historical intrigue, might I suggest Hugo? Directed by Martin Scorsese.
Oh, wow.
This visually stunning film tells the story of a young orphan who lives within the walls of this Paris train station in the 1930s who becomes entangled in a mystery that involves like a broken automaton.
Wow.
And the pioneering filmmaker, Georges Méliès.
Hugo is like a cinematic gem.
It is.
It's a love letter to the early days of cinema.
Yeah.
With a touch of like steampunk magic sprinkled in.
And for a like darker, more action-packed steampunk adventure.
Right.
There's Hellboy 2. The Golden Army.
Okay.
Directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
This film explores a world where, like, mythical creatures and humans coexist.
All right.
And Hellboy, who's this demon raised by humans, is caught in the middle of, like, an epic conflict.
Hellboy 2 is visually stunning.
It is.
With, like, incredible creature designs and this unique blend of, like, action, fantasy, and humor.
It's a film that embraces, like, the weird and the wonderful, showcasing Del Toro's, like, signature visual style.
Yeah, and for a, like, more thought-provoking look at, like, a post-apocalyptic world with steampunk elements, I'd recommend City of Ember.
City of Ember, yeah.
This film follows two teenagers who uncover clues to this long-lost city that holds the key to their survival. And the city itself is powered by this, like, giant generator. And the film's aesthetic blends, like, these elements of steampunk and dystopian fiction.
City of Ember offers, like, a glimpse into a possible future.
It does.
Where humanity is clinging to, like, dwindling resources and forgotten technology.
It's this cautionary tale. With a unique visual style that'll stay with you.
And for a dose of, like, historical fantasy with steampunk elements, I think The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is, like, a fun adventure. This film brings together, like, iconic literary characters like Alan Quatermain, Captain Nemo, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde, and they form a team to combat, like, this global threat.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is pure escapism.
Yeah, it is.
You know, a cast of, like, beloved characters and a world that blends, like, Victorian-era fashion and steampunk technology.
It's a film that celebrates, like, the enduring appeal of classic literature and the boundless possibilities of this steampunk genre.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking of the enduring appeal of these themes, I think it's time that we circle back to magical adventures in the Forbidden City and delve a bit deeper into, like, the psychological aspects of Abigail's journey. Her transformation isn't just, like, physical. It's also this, like, profound psychological journey.
It's like she goes through this incredible metamorphosis, like, shedding those layers of societal conditioning and embracing her true self. I mean, just imagine finding out that everything you've ever known is a lie. It's got to be earth-shattering.
Absolutely. You know, trauma and resilience are major themes in this film. Abigail has to confront, like, the trauma of her father's disappearance. The oppressive environment she's been raised in and the shock of discovering, you know, her own magical abilities.
It's a lot.
It is.
For one person to handle. But she doesn't break.
She doesn't.
Instead, she chooses resilience.
And
uses her newfound powers and her, like, unwavering determination to fight for truth and freedom.
It's really a testament to the strength of the human spirit. You know, we have this incredible capacity to, like, adapt and overcome even in the most challenging situations.
Speaking of challenges, Abigail's relationship with Bale, that imposing government agent is fascinating.
It is.
It's like watching a battle between these two opposing forces.
Their dynamic is, like, central to the film's exploration of, like, control versus freedom. Fear versus courage.
Bale embodies, like, that rigid authoritarian mindset that wants to control every aspect of life within the city.
He's driven by fear. You know, fear of the unknown, fear of change, fear of anything that might disrupt, like, that established order.
And he even, like, speaks in this measured, controlled tone, like, reflecting his desire to suppress any form of emotional expression.
That's like he's utterly convinced that he's doing what's best for everyone.
He's like the embodiment of blind obedience to authority.
And on the other hand, you have Abigail, who embodies, like, hope, defiance, and the courage to embrace the unknown.
She questions everything. She trusts her instincts, and she's willing to fight for what she believes in, even if it means, like, going against the grain.
their interactions are like a microcosm of that larger struggle between, those who cling to control and those who fight for freedom.
Yeah. It's a struggle that's like played out throughout history.
Yeah.
And continues to this day.
It's a reminder that, the fight for freedom often begins within ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to overcome our own fears and the limitations we impose on ourselves before we can challenge the systems that seek to control us.
And speaking of pushing boundaries.
Okay.
The film's use of surrealism adds another layer of psychological depth.
I agree.
Those dreamlike sequences.
Right, like the one
like the one with the shifting trees.
Yeah.
They really blur the lines between reality and imagination.
The surreal elements, they're not just there for visual effect.
Right.
They tap into the subconscious.
Okay.
Exploring these themes of, identity, memory, and the power of belief.
Yeah.
They suggest that reality isn't always what it seems.
Right.
And our perceptions are shaped by our experiences, fears, and desires.
Like the film is inviting us to question everything we see and hear. It challenges us to look beyond the surface and consider multiple perspectives.
And I think that's one of the things that makes magical adventures in the Forbidden City so compelling.
Yeah.
It's a film that stays with you.
It does.
And it prompts you to think about the world in new ways.
It's a film that asks more questions than it answers. And that's a good thing.
It is.
It encourages dialogue, debate, and critical thinking. It invites us to engage with the material on a deeper level and draw our own conclusions.
Yeah, and it reminds us that the journey for, truth and self-discovery is this ongoing process, one that requires us to be open to new ideas and challenge our own assumptions.
So if you haven't seen Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City, I highly recommend checking it out.
It's a visual feast.
It is.
A thought-provoking adventure. And a reminder that hope and imagination can flourish.
Right.
Even in the most oppressive environments.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Magical Adventures in the Forbidden City.
Okay.
Or Abigail.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure exploring this film with you.
Absolutely.
And we hope you, the listener, found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Yeah.
Until next time.
All right.
Keep exploring. Keep questioning.
And
keep the magic of storytelling alive.
Sounds good.